Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 Southeast Asia Disc Golf Championship presented by Forest City. We're out here at the Missile Hills Disc Golf Course, and we got a great card for you, including Sean Poignee, Teemu Jonkkari, Evan Boucher, who you've seen on coverage before in Asia, Manabu Kajiyama, and rounding out our card, Koa Zumwalt. This is the final 9 holes of round 3, and very special guest, Lance DuBos, joining me. Lance, what are we looking at here on screen? Any big surprises? A couple of youngsters.
That's right. Jean Poignee has been playing here in Malaysia for a few years now. He just started as a kid, and he's only 15 now, and you can see he's shooting pretty well. And down at the bottom of the lead card, Koa Zumwalt, who his family recently moved to Singapore. He's also a teenager, so we got a pretty young card.
Well, great. They've played through the first 8 holes, and now we have 9 holes left to play here in the tournament. And here's Sean.
He pulled that a little right, but being all the way out of bounds, well, that'll hurt.
Yeah, on the upper tier up there, there's a sidewalk, and if you go over it, that's where you can go out of bounds. And here's the other young superstar you were just talking about.
Yeah, Koa and his brother, both young kids who recently moved to Singapore with their family, and they have good form. They really can throw.
This is one of the few par 4s that we find on this course. And they play 2 separate courses in rounds 1 and 2. And here we are playing now a third course. Just a 17-hole layout here to close out the tournament, though.
Yeah, we had to move around a bit for the weekend.
Everybody knows Manabu, if you've watched any disc golf in the last 20 years. Looks like a pretty safe shot up top.
That's beautiful. Yeah, being up on the top there gives you a much better angle at the pin.
And Evan Boucher, who I met just about a year ago, playing in Thailand, as we saw him both at the Samui Swine and then also at in Chiang Mai, and he is certainly enjoying his time getting around. This will be Sean's third.
Pulled that a little left. I hope he's still in bounds there, just
I think he's
looking up the hill.
Just a little short. Now, obviously, we're over in Malaysia playing in this event, not far from Singapore. You've been a country coordinator over there for a number of years. Also, you've lived in Singapore for the last 28 years. I don't think anyone would have guessed that if they've just heard your voice so far.
Well, I don't have that Singapore accent yet. That's for sure. But yeah, I moved here in the late 90s and got into the ultimate scene in Singapore, which is quite well developed now. And then as I got older, I decided it was time to move over to disc golf. Still throw, don't run.
Some people say that's where ultimate players go to die, right? Is in disc golf? Is that the case sometimes?
Or to just try and prolong life in one form or another.
That sounds better. Good shot there by Evan. He's setting himself up for birdie. And now Manabu just passed it.
And if he's over that path.
Yeah, that was one of the questions. I think we're going to actually see a provisional called in a moment because they were uncertain, and you see.
Oh, that's OB on that layout.
Okay.
So it was told in the caddy book as the path at the top of the hill, which turns the corner behind the basket and goes down those steps.
Okay.
And so we had a few on our card, one at least on our card, that was on those steps on that path, which the path was OB. But we were all questioning somewhat pedantically, well, that's not on top of the hill. And the caddy book said the path on the top of the hill.
Well, and the funny thing for Manabu is if he was OB at that stairs, he would take it from there, puts in for the par, or if he goes down there, he puts in, and so either way, he's going to get the same score. But it was questionable. So that's the learning lesson for everybody at home, though, is make sure you call provisional if you're unsure.
Yeah, I think almost the entire card, the entire field, really, this was a very new course for a lot of people. Oh.
And things not going right here for Sean.
Looked a little tentative.
That's going to be a double bogey. The curse of the cameraman showing up, especially mid-round.
Hey, when you're 15 and all of a sudden you're on lead card with the disc golf guy.
It's been really impressive to see what he's done holding on to the lead pretty much throughout the first 2 rounds. And now he's finally getting challenged here halfway through the final round, and Evan picks up a birdie.
Yeah, we've had little Sean come over and tear up our course in Singapore and take a few tournaments.
Yeah. Talk about superstars. Yeah, a couple of young guns here. All right, here's Koa. And I'm kind of at a swing position because you can't see the basket from the tee. Is that right? Is there just an aiming point you're going for?
Yep. So you can't really see it from your viewpoint here, but that tee box is looking up at 3 big trees right in your face, and there's basically 2 gaps. The right side gap for people who want to throw a righty hyzer, and then the left gap for throwing these sidearm. So we'll see. Looks like we'll see Manabu throw the hyzer out the right side gap.
It's always a question on single camera coverage as to what's more important. Do you want to see the line from the tee? Do you want to see where it lands? Do you want to see, I mean, it could very easily be aced in a blind position like this. So sometimes I like going to the swing.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to shoot from behind them on this tee shot because you wouldn't
do
see
much good.
anything.
Huh? Okay. That was my guess. That's going to be kind of short on the left side for Teemu.
Yeah, I mean, when you tee off here, you just hope. You've got the gap right off the tee. Oh, and he hit that first tree.
Yeah, so some mighty struggles here for Sean just in the first couple of holes that I've caught up with him on.
Still going to have a lot from there. Yeah, in practice, I tried both ways on that tee shot and hit the tree both times.
Here's Manabu from the top. You know, and as we're seeing this course, I just mentioned, it's the 3rd one of the weekend. Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, all have kind of different angles in which courses are getting developed and limitations and restrictions, don't they?
They do. We certainly in Singapore, we have a very restrictive land use policy. We've been very lucky to get one course in that has baskets up all the time, the one that you played. Most of our other play is just pop-ups. We have the Innova Traveler baskets, which are fantastic. We can take them anywhere. Over here in Malaysia, they've been able to use a little more land.
Yeah.
So Eric has built quite a few courses over there. It's great for us. We're right across the border, literally, so we can go play their tournaments. They can come to ours.
We saw Koa's attempt off the mark. Evan trying to get comfortable here. A little too much speed for it, so he's over the top. Yeah, more than 100 competitors here for the weekend. The largest event that Malaysia has seen. Going to be a par for Evan. So very tight battle here with just a few holes left to play. It gets a little quirky because we're going to have some holes labeled like A, B, and C and so on. And you know, I think we're ultimately finishing on what is typically hole 14, but we're here for the final 9 nonetheless.
Yeah, it was tricky in this section where there was the A, the B, the C, and I think one of the scorecards had it in a different order at one point. So
Teemu, who's been playing very well all weekend and got off to a pretty good start here in the front. Got 4 birdies in the first 8 holes. Has since then picked up a couple of pars. Now we head to 10. I was kind of faced with a similar situation. How blind is this?
Also a very hidden little tee box, and Koa is doing the most popular line as a hyzer up. There's 2 trees that you just say, I just want to put up a hyzer right between those 2 trees and know it should come back near the basket because you can't see the pin either from this tee shot.
Evan.
There you can see the basket.
Yeah, making light work, a little hyzer.
But it is very much a trust shot. You say, I think that's how much to put on it, and that's beautiful.
And this is a little deceptive, and you'll see on the green in a moment, this is almost up on a little null of sorts. So there's a drop-off near the basket, which you can't necessarily see at the moment, but you will here in a second.
There you see the lefty line, which is actually a bit more open, but still also blind to the basket itself.
I just have to assume both Sean and Koa probably have well-rounded forehand, backhand games?
Very much so.
Okay. And with a couple of struggles, Sean says, I'm not messing with the drop-off that's behind the basket, just pitches it up next to the pin.
And there you see what can happen. Yeah, you can see the ridge there. And it's a very rocky area, too.
It may not look like much, but I think it just kind of gets into your mind a little bit. Like, hey, I'm dealing with this elevation. The footing might be uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's a lot of places with rocks, and you're not sure where to put your foot sometimes. And that does, you say, it gets in your head. And now Koa is doing the back and forth.
Yeah, almost within
Almost
a
hit
few
his own
feet.
bag.
Yeah, within a few feet of where I think he originally was putting from. And this time. And, of course, all you're thinking is, why didn't I just do that the first time? Right? Like,
Yeah.
it's that easy.
In a way, there's nothing worse than making that longer comeback.
Yes. Manabu with a look for birdie. I'm not alone when, after round one, you looked at the scores. Not only was Manabu not in the lead, he was 4 or 5 off the pace of Sean. And immediately, that should open up and say something to the entire world as Teemu comes up short. Just thinking, who's this kid that's beating Manabu? Like, seriously.
True that. It is his home course. He
Yes.
does play these. He does play these courses, and he knows them quite well.
Evan, make sure the basket's all in good standing, literally. And Evan will pick up another birdie. So right there, we're seeing him move to 18 under, jumping out in front of Sean now, and Teemu, who's kind of slowing down. Manabu in the hunt as well at 17. So quite
That's
a
all
battle
there.
with just a few holes left to play.
All right there for it. And this is something we saw in most of the divisions over the weekend. We had a lot of very tight play for the lead.
Very competitive. All right, we head to what's now labeled hole B. So making use of the elevation, that's going to be maybe 15 or 20, I want to say, left of the pin, but making use of every bit of elevation out here.
Yeah, it was good that we got to go up and down a little bit, different shots. We started the weekend at the Forest City, which was very flat and dealt with a lot of wind on the beach.
Yeah, that was my next question is, in Singapore or Malaysia or in this general area, are you generally talking about flat land? What kind of topography would most of the courses feature?
It varies, actually. There's usually a certain amount of hills. The different courses in Malaysia, they got a couple that are quite flat, the Forest City course, and one of their first courses called the Roundabout course is quite flat. But some of the others do have some elevation. Our second round at Poignee for this tournament has some nice up and down around a pretty park of lakes.
Yeah, Poignee is, I believe you just said, looked like a city course that you'd find almost in any city in the U.S., for instance, playing. It was, it kind of gave me that hometown vibe and feel.
Yeah, just your classic public park course. But also there, they did a really great job with the design and using the elevation. There's some very interesting, unique shots that you have to play at that course.
I believe that was Eric had said that watching the putt. Eric had mentioned that he was on his way to a job interview or something, drove by the green space, and immediately was like, what is this space? I would love to put a course here. And one way or another, it got done.
Is there any disc golf player that doesn't drive by an empty piece of land and say, this would be a great course?
In some countries, though, that's much easier said than done, right?
Indeed.
As you said, the difficulties in Singapore. And now the putt there by Sean seems as if he is completely out of his element at this point. He's going to have to get it together. Here's Manabu. Picking up another birdie. Again, he came in just 11 under.
Yeah,
And
he's just been moving and moving.
Bogey free without a problem. Koa's in for par. Any idea what the buildings are or what?
Those are mostly condominiums. I think
Okay.
one of them's a medical center. This part of Johor Bahru is sort of newish, a lot of newer developments. We're not far from the Legoland.
Ah. I was saying, as I think I Instagrammed during the week, that if we want to get the likes of like a Gannon-Burr over to Southeast Asia, Legoland would be the ticket. And he says he's in. So Gannon and the
that's
rest
great.
of the crew, great to have you guys come check out all the action over here. Get away from those winters in Iowa to come see what's going on here. Evan coming in on hole 11. And Evan yelling at me because he says, "Oh, you're still looking." Worried about it rolling down too far. How can you see the basket at all? Any part of the basket?
Yeah, you can see the basket, but
Okay.
but you actually, the line that they're taking, which is probably the best line for righty backhand, is a hyzer around the tree that's between you and the basket, and you just trust that it's going to slide down the hill toward the basket with that little soft hyzer.
Teemu, not enough power on it. Kind of tentative.
Then some folks do that sidearm line around that tree. Seem to work.
And just deep there for Sean.
Manabu very smartly not messing with that downhill behind the basket.
Yeah, his putters look good so far. So I guess I can't say I'm surprised by the layup, but not trying to lose anything here. Teemu. He had mentioned he feels like he was running out of gas. It was a long weekend of playing golf in these extreme heats. And as solid as he was playing, it seemed like he was just out of gas. And that one gets lifted by the wind.
Yeah, there was a good bit of breeze around that side of the hill, and it messed with a lot of shots. There you see Koa's not even thinking about it.
Not too often you see someone from circle's edge or inside the circle lay up like that.
And that was not quite committed. And you can see those trees in the background. It was swirling all over.
And everyone right now.
Yes, yeah.
This hole not doing anyone any favors considering how short and relatively easy it is.
It is. If you do that sweet little hyzer just on the right side of that tree between you and the basket, it should slide right down, and you're looking down at a somewhat elevated basket from above, and it's an easy putt. But anywhere else, not.
So in this region, as everyone's seeing this basket and has seen them, how are baskets often arriving at parks? Where are they coming from? What's happening?
What they've done here in Malaysia is local construction, which has worked in a lot of the countries because labor is actually pretty cheap. As you know here at your course in Thailand, where we are now, that those are all locally made baskets. We were able to bring some Discraft Chainstar lights over to our course, and they've done great duty for a portable basket. We've used them as if they were permanent, and they've done well for us. But yeah, most of the courses, once they get the specs, you bring it to a metal shop and they'll start making them.
All right. Well, they seem to be working as we're going to head over to a difficult next hole. Hole number 11, 459, and it's basically at 12 o'clock. If you're looking straight off the front, it's at 12 o'clock. Evan elects for the forehand.
Yeah, this was a hard par three. It's you got to go and turn over to the right behind those trees that you just saw. There's Manabu hitting the right line toward the basket.
May have gotten hung up just by a branch or two, but that appears to be the line. And Koa answers Evan's question. Evan said, "Does anybody go off to the right?" And Koa's like, "Yeah, I do. I'm about to do it."
And that can work. That's actually a pretty interesting line.
It is, but it gets hung up, and ultimately he's going to fall out of bounds.
Yeah, because, right, he needed to come back across that path that's right in front of them. That path is at the top of the hill, and that's the OB line. And that would have been the risk for that line.
And this hole actually sets up perfectly for Teemu. He just needed to get it, I think, with a little more angle and let the wind get underneath it and push him to the pin. So he'll have a long putt from there.
He's got a good line on that one.
And that's actually going to go deep, which we'll find out finally when we get up there. As you said, a good line. Youngsters, little knuckles. So from way back, Koa, who didn't make it back in bounds, kind of that's the OB sidewalk you were just talking about. Now at least has a chance to save the 4.
Yeah. Second shot, having to go over the out of bounds almost the whole way again.
Yep.
No thank you. He'll settle probably for a par.
It's kind of nice throwing up this hill. Evan had asked how far away. I'm right at the sidewalk right now, so I'm about 20, 25 feet past the pin. But when you're throwing uphill, it gives you a nice backstop. There's not a whole lot of skipping out on this terrain.
Mostly. And here the grass was a little bit longer, so it's also going to catch your disc.
They kind of pan down from the condos, as you were just saying.
Wow, he really was out there. And nails the birdie. That's fantastic.
That is way deep. If you're sitting there counting the steps, okay, it was a long way.
On what's already a very long hole.
Yeah, and he was certainly frustrated because he's really struggled for every hole I've filmed thus far, and then finally gets that one to drop and does it in long-range fashion. Koa doesn't
Good
save
effort.
the bogey.
Yeah, there you saw the power that Poignee has. He can really smash.
I think Koa's possibly second-guessing that route. I mean, I know it turned into a double bogey. Is he second-guessing that Heiser line?
I've played with him some, and he knows that he made the right decision, just didn't execute.
Okay.
He knows he could do that, and he's got a good head on him. He mostly doesn't get down on himself too much when I've seen him play. And he makes generally good strategic decisions, even if he doesn't execute.
Now, did I see both his mother and father were playing?
His brother and mother. His father couldn't make the tournament.
Okay.
He had to go on a business trip. But
Okay.
yeah, all 4 of them play, and they have a sister who is a real trooper to come along to the tournaments and sit in the car most of the time.
All right. Well, mark this spot on the tape, folks. That may be that was the Valerie Jenkins story of years ago, not having any interest in playing while the family was. She sat in the car and then went on to become one of the most prolific, FPO players of all time.
Well, maybe Koa and Caspian's sister should meet Valerie.
Nice little downhill. This is an ace run. This should be green light all day, right?
It is. You just go straight at it, and you've got the backstop right behind it. The problem with that backstop is you can lose your disc, and with only being 15 feet from the basket. The group in front of us, I think all 4 of them lost their discs. And look at that little buttery backhand.
So smooth and easy.
You wanted that beer.
Low, but
Low
he'll get
and
a
safe
skip.
to
Yeah,
get there, yeah.
not a problem.
And there was an ace on this hole. One of the local Malaysia players who's only been playing for a short time since he came over from Ultimate, Tom Nurse. He hit the ace on this hole.
Emo from short range doesn't connect. Spoiler alert, I also sat here and watched the chase card tee, and I said I would be buying beer for anyone that aced, and none of them did as much. So
I think Evan will be disappointed in that effort.
yeah,
He's usually so deliberate, and there he seemed a little quick.
And we see how close the scores are right now. Evan, 19 under, your outright leader. But Manabu
Is about to take that stroke.
With just 2 holes left to play, we are likely going to be knotted up. Manabu's got this short range putt yet. assuming he finds it.
Right? It's thick ferns in there.
Any concern for wildlife?
No, not really. Not there.
Not okay. But in the area, could be snakes, spiders, anything of danger?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have one or two resident cobras on our main course in Singapore.
Yeah, which thanks for telling me that mid-round.
We didn't see him on your
Okay.
round. I meant to tell you where he was when we went past his. Yeah, when we told Scott Stokely that, it freaked him out a bit.
Big shout out to our friends over at Flying Plate. We'll be right back. Now we're on hole letter C, I believe. 410 feet. It's really just kind of a tunnel shot, and then the basket there perched in the middle of the hillside.
You've got that super rough on the left, all that ferns on one side. And on the other side, you've got the bank going up to the path.
Oh, and Sean trying to go out and around everything, but gets caught up. Out of position for birdie.
Yeah, that was a line I never really considered.
Yeah, there's an elite level power that I think is required to get there. And
yeah.
What a great shot there by Koa.
Just a little long.
Oh, and
going straight into the ground.
Yeah, that looks like a guy who's out of gas for sure. Just running on fumes after a long weekend. Evan getting himself lined up. Varying tee pads that we found throughout the weekend. Obviously, it must be difficult to, concrete tees are not a standard in a lot of our countries out there that aren't the U.S. It feels like we're maybe Finland.
And that was just massive by Evan.
Big, huge hyzer.
It's at least 60 long.
And although I'm at the swing spot, there seems to be this conversation, and you can't quite fully hear it, so I'll give you the gist, which is I think Teemu asking if Evan really was within the confines of the natural tee area, and Koa seemed to kind of agree with that idea, and Manabu's unsure, and they're having a discussion as to if Evan maybe was too far to the right. And in the day before, the tees were actually relaxed by a meter or so, left, right, and behind. And they're having a conversation as to if it applies here. And with it being uncertain, was Evan for sure really outside of it? And I think he's kind of saying, well, are we getting nitpicky now, I guess? And to what degree of nitpicky, I think, is maybe the question.
Yep, mostly natural tees. Certainly at this course, Missile Hills is natural tees. But as you said, the second round at Poignee has concrete tees, but some of them are a little slippery, and some of their places where there was a little bit of mud, so they did give us some leeway on that one.
Yeah, so it didn't necessarily apply to this course. I think it's just really tough when you didn't have a defined area. Ultimately, after that even lengthier part of that conversation, Evan was given a penalty for a foot fault. And it was, so he will be attempting his putt, for 3, as he's gone deep of the pin. And he cans it.
Good for him.
Wow. And immediately after, Evan says, last year there was a questionable stance for me when I was playing in Chiang Mai, and I went on to make a great putt. Here, he gets called on a foot fault, then goes on to make an even better putt. So I don't know. It's between the cameras and the calls.
We all have our own forms of motivation.
Yes. So crucial at this point, because that's going to keep him within 1 of Manabu until Manabu has this lined up for birdie. Let's see what he can do with it. For birdie.
And he hits it.
Wow.
Quality comes through.
Unbelievable. The conversation, the stress, the pressures, and he steps up to take the birdie and a 2-stroke lead heading into a very birdieable final hole.
Koa doing the little mountain goat to get to his position. Being up on that side of the hill was very tricky. Yeah,
after a lot of slipping and sliding, maybe even sacrificing a pair of shoes or two by the end of the weekend, it's moist out there.
Well, this one was pretty dry, but this part rocks and
Sure. Okay.
loose dust on this course. It was a little different feeling. Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, after all that work, just to get into position to then not convert. Sean gets up and down and saves the par. You said some difficult footing for sure, and ultimately Koa is going to be in for par. So can we call it here and now that Sean and Koa are a couple of the international superstars that should be on everyone's radar?
We'll give them a little more time, but you can see they've both got great form, really clean throwing motion, and they've got the youth that we don't have.
Well, the fact that Sean was, pushing for the lead here after 2 rounds, he's now faltered a little in this final, we'll say 9 holes, but it is so impressive to see where he is at this point.
Maybe they're doing a little basket maintenance.
And we head into our final hole. Like, share, subscribe to all the YouTube things. Thank you guys via Patreon. Thank you to Eric and his wife Jenna and everyone else I've met, including some new friends. Wesley along with Cy. We got Lance here. Casper, my host. It's been an incredible weekend. That is in birdie range for Manabu.
A little bit of a tough skip there, Sean.
How blind is this one? It's
you
relatively
can
short.
just about see the basket, but you do kind of want to take a few steps forward, confirm what you're looking at. The OB path behind it is not too far away, and there's a path off to the right. But I think for most of these guys, it's a pretty simple shot.
Just prior to throwing, Evan confirmed with the group that his footing was all right on that tee.
Oh.
I think there is a little discussion as to where, there's a marking versus where you were, supposed to tee from and such. And he just wanted to confirm, which makes sense. And wow, talk about a collection point over there. All 5 drives?
Not generally great.
No, I was not. I'll admit I wasn't impressed. Let's see if Koa can finish strong.
I think my MA40 card had a better grouping than that. Yeah, he's has to go down to a knee to get underneath the edge of that tree.
Oh, good
Nicely
birdie
done.
to finish. So he's going to come up short of the win coming into the 3rd round. He was your leader by 1. He's going to finish at 18 under. Hesitation by Manabu, trying to close it out.
Gets it right. Wow.
Yeah, you see him can the 40-footer uphill on the previous one.
Now you see Evan also is having to straddle out.
And he cans it. So Evan, with a little bit of drama at the end to finish out, he's going to come up just barely short of Manabu, assuming Manabu makes the comebacker here. First Teemu, also dealing with that tree. Just cannot buy a birdie here. And
There
with
it
that, he's in. The par is enough. And Manabu, your champion here at the 2024 Southeast Asia Disc Golf Championships, presented by Forest City. Lance, everybody needs to be coming over to your neck of the woods, it sounds like. Malaysia, Cambodia, Singapore. What should we expect from your area in the next few years?
I think this is going to continue to grow. It's going to be more of a real Southeast Asia tour, but we've been working together with the different country coordinators to try and schedule our tournaments so that we don't conflict too much with each other. But we've already reached the point where there's too many places and too many tournaments, so there are some going on the same weekends, which means all you folks who want to come from the cold, we got options for you.
Plenty of options. Well, when you see it, It was Ming who had an insane final round. He's going to jump up into second to tie up with Evan. Sean finishes in fourth. Again, Manabu Kajiyama, your champion. Lance, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Terry. Really a pleasure to work with you.
All right, guys, that's it from Southeast Asia's Championships. We'll see you at the next one.